So this is the meeting of for the March Circulation Committee meeting for SAGE. So I'm the chair of the Circulation Committee, Brent Mills. And I see we've got a pretty good spread of people here, and I will keep that on this document here and update that with the agenda when the session or when the meeting is over. Okay. All right. So kind of the first, I guess, business will be that for the next conference, we've been trying to have it, or sorry, for the next meeting, we've been trying to have it kind of, I think it's the second or third Wednesday of the month. That seemed to work out the best when we initially ran the poll. But the next meeting, Beth and me will be at the Evergreen Conference in North Carolina, so it would probably be beneficial to change that. I just wanted to get people's opinions if Wednesday on the 13th next month, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, if that would work for people, since it's a little different than what we usually do.
Brent, we have a cataloging committee event happening here in Baker on that day.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's definitely a change then. Let's see.
Cataloging meeting, sorry, not a committee, but a training meeting.
Okay. Would the 6th work for people, or is that too early? That would be the previous Wednesday of April.
That works fine for me.
Okay. Okay. So I will make a note of that, and unless I hear anything from anyone here or through the listserv, I'll set that as the next go-to meeting time. So 4:06. Okay. So just kind of diving right in for updates, kind of wanted to give a discussion of what we've been doing with Circ related projects right now, and I hope people are around or people who are on the phone can see the screen, because I'm just going to be showing some documents. But so for the holds training, that's something I mentioned in a prior systems update blog post, but it's kind of a similar format to what I did for the reports, but this one will not be something that you'll have to be in person to kind of take or see the documents for. I'm just kind of working on that and kind of wanted to give an overview of what I'll be looking at. Just kind of thinking of a generic kind of holds training for people that are both new to Evergreen or maybe coming off a new ILS or a different ILS, and also just for people that are currently using Evergreen but might need a refresher or could use a refresher on just kind of how processes work. So these were the kind of overview items that I was going to look at. Kind of how to check a hold status through the patron view, as well as through the record. Various ways to place a hold. We'll kind of go over that when I bring up the volume holds poll. These are kind of just what I felt were some big areas that might be good to tackle, and I was curious if people had any others that they might not see presently on that list, or something with holds that they would like to see their staff or themselves they'd be curious to know about.
Might be dangerous information to provide, but how to move somebody in the holds queue.
Oh, okay.
I think that only certain logins can do that, can't they? Like for
believe
here, only our admin logins capable of doing that
that's
on
possible.
purpose.
Okay. 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 And also, yeah, I've kind of briefly started on it, but the types of holds, what they look like to patrons and staff. I mean, this might change later on, but just kind of giving an overview, as well as, especially, I've noticed some kind of questions regarding transits and holds and how to properly kind of cancel set transits, make sure the patrons are getting notified of their items when they come in. Just kind of clear that up. But that's what I've been looking at for that.
Sometimes we've seen an item from another library, an ILL item canceled by that loaning library, and there's no notification given, or there's no replacement of the hold because there's no other items.
Okay, so like a hold canceled with no notice.
Yeah, some procedure there that it would be courteous to the patron and the owning library, or the home library of the patron would be nice.
Okay.
We've been wondering about that too, because sometimes when we're the only library that owns the item and we can't find the item, I think we do cancel them and we try to put a note in the cancellation, but we don't really know. Are we supposed to call the other library? Are we supposed to just like write the note and let them figure it out? Let the owning library, the patron's library figure it out?
Yeah, you could also set a note and make it public so that the patron can view it when they log in to the open.
Oh, that's new, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that a new?
that'll. So, like for example.
I see. You mean like go into the patron's record and set.
Yeah, like if
I think we didn't add the note in the actual note field when asked about canceling it.
And that is helpful. I mean, we look for notes in there and the canceled holds.
And actually, with the notes, you can notes. You can add one, and if you want it to be visible to the patron, you just check that box. Yeah. So for instance, that your hold is gone. You can require initials on the note. I'm logged into a Hood River workstation, so they have required that. So now, as a staff member, I have to do that. So when you do that, it'll show up as a note in the patron's screen to staff, but also you'll see this. Can you see the screen I have here with this messages? See, there's like a little red number 1 right next to it, so it indicates that I have a new message there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't think we weren't thinking about actually going into the patron's record to place the note. We were putting it in the hold cancellation field. Okay. Fortunately, that happens a lot less often now that we've cleaned up our catalog, but it happens every once in a while.
Yeah, and I've noticed with the long holds reports that I've been seeing less and less, and it's predominantly to do with either the patron has expired or reached the max fines, so that they can no longer capture hold, or or it's just on a copy that's gone missing, which I'll talk about a little later. Okay, and just with regards to the second kind of tier of the training, with local admin, I know there's some directors in this meeting right now, but I was just kind of curious what features as an administrator in a library environment you would kind of be curious to want more information about for Sage. I was thinking really broadly just about, setting close dates, maybe how to view your library settings that you have, things of that nature, but didn't know how deep or what things that current library directors that use Evergreen have found beneficial.
We have found the copy locations order really helpful. It really helps speed up doing our pull lists.
Okay.
Because we can then place the copy locations in order of the physical location of them.
Okay. There's also kind of, I know, it may be a circulation or admin, but kind of a big one I've noticed is, customize receipts. For instance, if you want to change what your pull list looks like, how to do that.
Anything you can tell us about how to figure out the obtuseness of printing an Evergreen would be most welcome.
Yeah, it's going to get more interesting with the web client for sure. I don't even think they finished the printing component of it. It's called Hatch.
Interesting, do you mean challenging?
Yeah, I haven't seen it thoroughly implemented yet.
Because it's already pretty bizarre.
Yeah, but yeah, and I know especially with local admin stuff, before the move to, I think they're going to call it Evergreen, sorry, 3.0 when the web client actually comes in, but the next release that they just cut a couple days ago is 2.10, and that's still the staff client. So I think when we do move to Evergreen 3.0, I'd definitely like to give some kind of web client training for staff as well as just admin, because it's going to be a little bit different. But if you've used any kind of website that's built off Bootstrap, it's a pretty similar interface, but things are going to be a little different. Okay, but I'm working on that right now. Another update is we put in a new index for keywords, which it can get pretty nerdy, so I did not include it in the listserv message, but basically now if you search by a 10-digit or 13-digit ISBN, regardless, as long as the record has one of those values in it, it will come up in a keyword search. And you were able to do that before using the advanced search numeric one right here. That would do that 1013 normalization step. But previously, if you just entered, 978, etc., you can see it there, the new index. But before, if you just entered 978 something, if the record had only the 10-digit, it would not show up in the keyword search. So I'm kind of hoping for catalogers that use the keyword search, or perhaps don't know about that advanced numeric one, that as well as patrons, that they'll be able to find the title, maybe help with duplication, deduplication efforts for records as well. Okay. Oh, if anyone
Brent, on
has,
the
yeah.
director question, I was looking at the cash reports, and we don't use those a lot. Actually, we keep books kind of separately. But
Cash reports.
I'd be interested to know if libraries had a system or a requirement for forgiving payments. If all staff can do that. If they do it, do they need to print out a receipt and initial it and put it in the cash box? You know, what are kind of the handling of procedures
Okay.
in those events? Some good auditing best practices, I guess.
Okay.
If it helps you any, I can talk to our my partner. She works at the city, and they deal with writing off parking fines. It's probably largely a similar process, I would think.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So we want to empower our staff to do that when it's appropriate, but I think there also needs to be an audit trail, so there's not somebody who thinks they can just do it for their friends.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, we do let our staff do that, but we also, A, don't use the cash reports, and B, we don't have the same accounting basis as you do, so.
Yeah, with the cash reports I've heard them referred to as, in quote, Evergreen is not an auditing system from one of the developers, so I don't know how how keen they are at making this report feature in the client super great. But there are some practices we can do for maybe patrons that, make sure you use a payment type that's, the correct payment type for what you're doing.
Right.
That's good. Thanks, Perry. Okay, and then I was kind of curious if, I was mentioned in the previous circulation committee, but kind of some help with updating the Circ policy documents. These current ones have not been updated. These are the policies I pulled that are in relation to what is currently in the database, but it is a little maybe hard to understand for some, but I've broken it up by, like, if you wanted to see what, Baker's circulation policies are, here they are, the Dow's, etc., which I think is good for a little more transparency of why is, my ILL material circing for 28 days while an educator checks out something and they get 42 days. But I was just kind of wondering if anyone would be interested in kind of helping me rewrite or visit, especially these two documents, the lost book and the circulation policy. These haven't been updated in quite a while, and I think I was even looking at the lost book policy with Buzzy.
I've never heard of the lost book policy before.
Yeah, it was it was approved on 2003, so it's been a while, to put it mildly. But just kind of, what is the responsibility of the library and the patron for an item when it enters lost status?
I was really surprised when I saw this because it mentioned that, like, if a library is sending another library's material back on the courier, then that library is responsible for paying for it. But I was told the exact opposite when I started. I don't know.
Yeah, so I
mean, if it's lost in transit, the sender has to pay?
Basically, whoever originally put it in transit is supposed to pay for it. Whoever put it in transit at that point.
Yeah.
Perry, this is Kathy. I'd be willing to work on that revision with you.
Okay. Is this Kathy Street?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that volunteering me as well?
Did you mean me, Kathy? Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, Perry got roped into enough stuff yesterday. I don't want to keep.
I can
Oh,
help
I
do
thought
it.
that was Perry. I thought Perry brought it up in the first place.
Okay. All right. So.
Hard to tell you guys all apart on the telephone.
All right. So we got Kathy and did I hear you, Buzzy?
Yeah, I can help.
Okay. Right. And the main ones I was looking to focus on are those two right there. These standard rules loans policies are pretty much if you go to the circulation policies document right here and look at the SAGE defaults. These are, yeah. So there's also, I'd love for people to look at this and, I mean, I just pulled what was in there. There's some that I'm a little confused about. But like, for example, this is the primary SAGE circulation policy. You can see it has no kind of checks for the most part. Any user, if none of these other ones get in the way, it's a 21-day checkout with 20 cents on the fines and a max fine limit of $5. But there's a few in here like the equipment, the Blu-ray. I'm not sure what those are doing. But yeah, so these were the two I'd like to focus on. And please, anyone who does poke around these documents, I'd love for anyone else to just kind of say, hey, I don't think that's how that should be, or are you sure that's the correct rule? That would also be very beneficial. Okay.
Can I go back to, I guess it kind of holds training, but kind of, and this is a little outside the Circ committee, but I'll just ask you if I had the chance. Would it be possible to get some training on the acquisitions module?
Yes, I've been looking into that because I know that Dow's has been curious about it, and I need to train myself in it a little bit more first because we haven't had any libraries that have really kind of decided to dive into it. And I know it's probably at least right now, it's the most, well, I don't know.
Mysterious.
Yeah, thank you. It's probably the most mysterious of the modules. If you want to look at the Launchpad entries for acquisitions, they're pretty long, but it would be really beneficial, I can understand, for some libraries to kind of have a one-stop for the acquisitions process and not having to do it outside of Evergreen. But that's a good.
And I guess the other one is, isn't there like a serials module or something like that too?
Yeah, and people are using serials. For some libraries, they found that just using the current way of adding like to the magazine bibs for the certain items has worked out, but there are libraries that have used the predictions in the serials module, and if anyone's interested in kind of at least trialing serials, I would love to poke around at that. I know Beth has been pretty active in that with a few libraries, just kind of to automate it so you don't have to continually add new issues when they come in.
That we would like to.
Okay. Okay.
For acquisitions, if any of us want to experiment with it, the start of a new fiscal year would be a pretty good opportunity.
And there are a few also back-end pieces we have to put into place too. I know with kind of the EDI ordering, if you're going through Baker and Taylor, getting that set up. So that'd actually be something I've been wanting to do.
There's also importing batch brief mark records. That's kind of mysterious. I think that's offered through some of our vendors, Ingram, maybe Baker and Taylor.
Oh yeah, like the SIP records, or
yeah,
those partial
but
ones.
Yeah, that it's a scary prospect, and we have seen some large number of duplicate records created with that then looks like they're lingering there until they're updated or never do get updated.
Yeah.
Audio Editions does the same thing, I believe.
I mean, it would be handy, but problematic. So certainly don't want to add to the duplicate problem.
Yeah, we could.
Well, it seems like the worry would be that items would start getting too attached to bibs that weren't very high quality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or that no one goes back and checks it. Yeah. And that could be something we could even add a field, like a mark field that has to be, only related to those brief records, and so we could run a report just for looking for bibs that have that field, and that it's taken out when they're edited. But
we have sometimes created brief records for things that are on order. There's no full record for, but often patrons are asking, hey, what about that purchase request I made or that ILL item? And without another tracking system, well, there is a whole nother tracking system, but it's not generally available to most of the front desk staff.
okay. Spell, I swear. Okay. All right. Jumping forward on the updates. The new notes. I know this has been something I talked with Perry about. Evergreen has two ways of avoiding overdues when they come back in. Say if you have a lost item that a patron has an item that's been overdue for a while and finally goes lost. Most libraries have a setting that voids the overdues and just charges the patron the item price and the processing fee. Kind of have an example. I tried to hide the patron's, but basically this bottom part here, you can kind of see that the item went lost, and all these overdues, these 25 of them, are no longer marked voided. They are account adjusted, which is Evergreen's way of trying to get rid of these negative balances that are possible when items do get voided. But there is currently no note entry for that, which I'm looking into and talking with the Evergreen community to figure out what could be happening there, because they did have to fix something on another note issue I mentioned that Pendleton brought up. So just kind of beware if an item does go lost and you see these blank payment types, at least right now, those are the overdues being voided off the record so that the total bill is reflective of the lost material and the processing fee. That's just what to mention there. And the survey on the volume holds, we've mentioned a little bit in the council meeting yesterday. So the poll was if patrons should be allowed to place these volume holds, kind of mentioning that there are holds that go hopeless after maybe the patron is not aware when they place a hold in a record that it's only what happens to that item. So for example, if this request tab right here is a volume hold, which you can kind of see if you look at the autocomplete address at the bottom where it says hold type equals V. So if a patron does request this and this item goes missing, they have almost no chance of knowing that the hold is basically never going to fill until 365 days go, and then it's automatically canceled. Kind of have an example of a patron that made a request back on 6/18/2015. You can see that the type is a copy hold, so they've been waiting for this for a while, and the last 3 digits are 839. So if we go to that record, we can see that that copy, need to fix that jacket as well. The copy with the 839 has gone missing, but there's other copies that are available at NISA and Umatilla that could fill that hold. So, but by having the patron be that copy hold, it will just keep looking for this particular copy until it resurfaces. So it's essentially dead, unless that does come back. So the poll was to kind of get a feel if library staff thought that the volume holds was something useful to keep on, these hold links right here, or if the title hold, which is available when you click on this place hold option, is something that should be the only option to be presented to patrons. Staff will still have the option to do those copy and volume holds. It's just to kind of make sure that patrons, or at least my idea was to make sure patrons can get the copy when they make sure they get a copy, I guess.
Brent?
Yes.
Wouldn't we also need to wouldn't we need to get rid of copy and volume holds for patrons?
Yeah, patrons actually, the only kind of hold a patron actually can do is a volume hold. They're not allowed to do copy holds. They can do volume and title, whereas staff can do volume, title, copy. There's also something called meta records hold, which is if somebody wants hold on multiple formats of the same item, like Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, audio CD as well as the book, but I haven't seen that utilized very much.
So I am all for getting rid of copy and volume holds for patrons, because I mean, they already cause problems just by allowing staff do them, because I think people try to game the courier system, but patrons, it seems like it could be even worse. But my only question is there a way to still allow holds on individual issues of magazines? Like, would we need to move to like a part system on magazines, or how would that work?
Yeah, for the magazines, because obviously currently with the way they're set up, you'd want to either have something to do with parts, or or just allow that for the magazines. I guess that's a good issue because I don't know how many parts. I think David mentioned earlier there was an issue he had where a bib had over 15 parts on it, and it kind of stopped working. There was kind of a limit he reached when he hit 15. So that's something.
Can we allow holds on one, like on magazine bibs, but not on other ones? Is that even a possibility, or is it kind of an all or nothing thing?
It could be. I'd have to figure out what kind of checks we'd have to do for that. But yeah, that is something, that's a good idea to look at.
We don't have very many patrons that do that. We have a few, and they use it a lot.
All right. Yeah, and to kind of address Vail's concerns, the copy holds would still be available to staff members. This is just for patrons. Yeah, I think that kind of bears. It looks like there was 14-4 and 8 against keeping it how it currently is, but I think with the issue that was raised about the magazines, that's something I want to look into before, at least personally, I'd like to look into that before changing the current status.
I guess this also, maybe going back to the training on holds, we've noticed a lot of copy holds from other libraries that go askew, and it seems like there are staff members from libraries that are placing copy holds thinking, oh, well, if I place a copy hold on this, then I'll be able to get it faster. Do you know, I mean, do libraries have a good understanding of how the system works in terms of determining where to fulfill the hold?
I think so, but it definitely could be better, because when you do effectively choose a copy hold, you are kind of bypassing a lot of the logic that Evergreen uses when it's determining a hold placement.
I mean, even a few months ago, I found one of our staff members doing it, and she was placing holds on like Sherman County stuff because she thought we could get Sherman County stuff faster, when in fact we can actually get it faster from Baker County or Lakeview than we can from Sherman, even though Sherman's closer.
Yeah, and the current logic with at least when you do, if I clicked on, well, there's one copy here, but if I click on a title hold, it'll first look at the person that's placing the hold, who the hold is for, the recipient, and see what library they're a part of, and it will go out from there. So if they're at Baker, it'll first look at Baker, and then it will look at libraries in the Baker system, and then it will go out from there to all of Sage. But when you select a copy hold, those checks get put by the wayside. So that's definitely something to add to the holds training.
Maybe just a recommendation, general recommendation, that it really should only be used if the patron is in no hurry and the goal is to save bringing it in from another member library.
Okay.
Our main use of it is more like administrative, like we really need to get that copy of it to do recataloging on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. That's probably our primary use as well.
Okay. That's good. All right. Trying to speed ahead. I don't want to keep everyone too long. I know I usually drag these things out. Just want to look at the investigation we talked about last time about putting overdrive records into Evergreen, and this will be a conference session at this upcoming Evergreen conference that I will be definitely attending. And you can kind of see right now, if we go to Sitka, which is a library consortium in British Columbia, they were the ones that had their in-house developers kind of work on this. You can kind of see, for example, here, it's an electronic resource. You can click to access the item. So if I went there, it brings me to the Overdrive look, or the Library to Go look, straight from the catalog, which is pretty nice. Kind of see it here as well with this Harry Potter title. You can place a hold on it. Well, I'm not a member, but yeah, it's basically loading those MARC records for Library to Go records and kind of making them available in the catalog versus having to click the link to go out to Library to Go. One kind of concern I had just before even really diving into it is that kind of loading those Overdrive bibs are not exactly static records. We kind of, our holdings change quite a bit depending on, what gets added, what gets taken away. So we'd have to make sure that there was a kind of mechanism in place for ensuring that old titles are excised from Evergreen where the new ones are brought in. But I think the session at the conference will help clear up some of that.
Brent, would this be a similar process to what you use when you deal with the Dallas's Boopsy account, where you have to upload them every once in a while?
With the Boopsy thing, the Dallas has since ceased the subscription they had with Boopsy. But what that was is just us kind of pushing out an FTP of the current records we had, and then they loaded it on their third-party kind of union catalog. So this would all be done on our end. There would be nothing we'd have to kind of talk with Overdrive about to get it put in. It'd be the same kind of as just loading any batch of MARC records that we do now, plus adding in some extra stuff like JavaScript and some additional checks. But I'd like to at least try it out on the test server to see what it looks like. So that's what I'll be doing there. Pretty excited about it, actually. So with age protection, sent out email on the listserv, I believe yesterday, kind of with the results of what happened at the council meeting. We talked about the poll regarding the 18th month age protection rule, which I think was unanimously chosen or decided that it was a little too much, kind of a year and a half to have an item solely at your library. So that 18th month hold protection is not available now, and all those items that had it have been moved on to the 6-month age protection rule. So currently you only have the option of branch only 3 or 6 month and system only 3 or 6 month. And I've also changed the alert messages to kind of be a little more reflective of what happens when a patron tries to place a hold or even a staff member on a bib that only has age protection items on it, which can happen especially with brand new bibs that come out and maybe only one library has a copy and that library age protects. So now if a patron tries to place a hold, like for example the Look of Silence I think just came out, and that's I think only the Dallas has a copy, but they have age protected it. So the message now reads, the libraries that own this title do not lend out their newest items to other libraries for a 3 to 6 month time period. Therefore, this hold may take longer to receive. Beforehand, it was a little, I don't know if a patron would be able to understand it. It just said kind of basically this hold was not placed. And it gave a little, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was not very descriptive.
That's better.
But I just kind of wanted to get people's opinions on that for what happens. I feel like that kind of did the trick, more or less, kind of alerting people that it's 3 to 6 months. Staff member knows that's age protection. Yeah, so that's just what you'll be seeing.
So does the system target that copy and then it doesn't retarget if the patron's home library actually does get a copy?
Oh, if they do a title hold, it will target that as soon as that item becomes holdable. It's only giving you this message because there was only one item, and so when the hold targeter looked at it, it's like, oh, this is the only one we can look at, and it's age protected. So if another item does come on that's not age protected and it is a title hold, even though this message was initially put up, they will likely be targeted with that non-age protected item. So yeah, it would go through.
Okay.
Okay, I think Heidi is here. Notice she put this on the agenda. Heidi, if you wanted to kind of maybe talk about if you're around the desensitizing items for ILL. Or maybe swing back to that. Okay, Heidi. Okay, I'll try to catch her before the end of it. Kind of the last thing I really had on here was a reminder of available check-in modifiers. We've had a few issues with libraries that have been noticing when they checked in a book that it didn't go to the hold shelf, that it remained in transit, and they were wondering if the patron was getting notices. It ended up that the library in question, when they were changing it or checking in items, had selected this capture local holds as transits option when they were checking in items, which displays right there when you do have it selected. And when you do check in items with this flag attached, it will keep that transit status on the item. I think this was set up initially for libraries that have something like automated material handling and want a kind of human double check after the item had been scanned in, kind of a double check, a double scan. Because when you scan the item back in after this, it will trigger the on-shelf hold. But I just wanted libraries to be aware that when you do have any of these flags set, it does affect what happens to the items when they're checked in. The main one is that capture local holds as transit. And when you have everything cleared out, it should just be a clear green screen like this. And you can even stack those modifiers so you could have a pretty crazy view. But the other ones to kind of mention are this amnesty mode. Say if your library does have maybe food for fines or something like that, and they brought in a lot of items that are overdue, you could set the amnesty mode, and that will void the fines on those items that you check in. Definitely make sure to be careful to not leave that active all the time though. As well as the auto print of slips. Clear the hold shelf. You can have that set if you want to check in the items that you see on your browse shelf. If you have items that you want to clear, you can grab them from your hold shelf and scan them in with this status. That's another option. And the other ones are probably not that pertinent to Sage libraries unless there are other check-in modifiers that are used by library staff members that are here right now that I'm not mentioning. Yeah, just the main thing was to double check that you've got a kind of green bar of OK if you want everything to kind of happen normally when you're checking in items. And also this, since we're on the check-in screen, the strict barcode, make sure that is not checked. If you do enable that, there are certain barcodes that will be excluded from the check-in process that don't work with the regular expression that is used here. So for the most part, leave this unchecked. Okay, I guess kind of moving on now, I guess just to the open forum. If there's anything that anyone here would like to kind of discuss or talk about that I didn't touch on, or some kind of clarification points that might be good.
What are the next steps on the renewals, Brent?
Renewals?
Increasing renewals, potentially.
Oh, yeah. That's a good, I don't know if we set kind of process for what we wanted to do with that. Because I think, let me pull up the, where did I have it? Sorry, just a sec. Pause this. Real quick. Just a moment, be right back. And all right. Okay, so currently it was a little contested with the poll to increase the renewals from 2. And the question asked was, would you be for or against raising the current default from 2? And the end options were yes, raise it to 3, yes, raise it to 4, and keep it as it is right now. But it seemed like there was definitely close enough that it's worth a relook here. As 10 libraries wanted to raise it to 4 and 13 did not. But I don't know, what do you think a good next step would be past this poll? Buzzy, did you have anything specifically in mind, or?
I did not. It sounds like a lot of the libraries, at least that responded to the poll, that didn't like the idea were school libraries. I don't know if maybe they might, as Perry said yesterday, maybe they have different needs than the public libraries do, but I mean, I'll be frank, I don't see a lot of reasons for not increasing the renewal.
Mm-hmm.
The number of renewals. I mean, it's a patron-centered change, and I know that a lot of our patrons would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'd be a way to flesh out exactly what the reasons are for the people who don't want to increase it, exactly why that is.
If The libraries, I mean, it'd be best to implement this at a SAGE level, just kind of for uniformity of what happens when you check out an item, but there are ways to set that a little. We could even exclude just, for example, schools from this, if that was a concern. But I think this was...
I do like to... It's nice when our consortium does use as consistent rules as we can, so...
Yeah, I would like that as well, personally. But I also want to make sure people are getting what they...
and it'd be helpful to hear from the school libraries that saw the extra renewals as a problem with their system getting materials back maybe at the end of the year, so that we could know if there's another mechanism we can use to help them achieve that recovery and still provide the extra renewals for the rest.
All right.
Isn't there a way in the system to basically say that due dates can't go past a certain day?
Well, I mean, you can set the duration so that it's, you know, a certain amount of time, but like, for example, if, you know, we have our current duration rules, this is where I would set, you can kind of see on the screen, that's the default policy with the 2 that's used most often. So you can set it by how many days and then how many renewals. So you can set it to a certain amount of days for no problem there.
But there isn't a way with the schools to say, okay, this school
yes,
materials back by June 5th.
Yes.
So
sorry, I was confused. There is. It's called the hard due dates, and those are. Let me pull this up just to show you guys real quick. Let's see. So there's hard due dates. You kind of see it set right now. Like especially Hood River High School has it set so that all their checkouts cannot exceed this date right here for seniors, and then for the general group. So any checkout that happens will not exceed this date. So that might be something that the schools that...
Yeah, maybe we need to advertise that option more for the schools. Maybe a lot of them aren't aware.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to send out a kind of, I guess, conversation request just about it to kind of get people's, I don't know if another poll would really work, but I just kind of wanted to hear, are we just kind of asking for people's opinions right now about the results?
I think so, because I mean, aside from the schools, I mean, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of compelling arguments to not increase it at least to 3, because it would be, the patrons would like it, and I think our staff, I know our staff would like it, because A, they don't want to have to keep overwriting things, and B, if the patrons can renew it themselves, that saves them time and us time.
I agree. And I think that's probably what was behind the logic for implementing this feature. So get that set. And there's, yeah, that also might just be lack of knowledge about that setting too. Okay. All right. Did anyone else have any issues that I didn't touch on or we didn't mention here with the meeting so far? Okay. Hearing radio silence, I will adjourn this meeting after agreeing kind of with you guys that this is a good set of action items for the next meeting to look at the acquisition serial module. Especially I think I might have to take a training day myself for that. To look at kind of putting in new records, if we are doing that brief import, how to make sure those records are taken out or adjusted so that they fit the current standards. That might be worth connecting with the cataloging committee as well.
The high holds reports.
Oh yes.
I haven't seen those come out. Did you get feedback that those weren't welcome or weren't useful, or what happened with those?
Yeah, sorry, I have them. I just haven't been putting them up. I have it as an automated report that's running, but they haven't been put in since, gosh, what was it? Yeah, since January 30th. So I'll get those up. They're additional ones, but thanks for that reminder, Perry.
I just had an alert. My recurring reports are still running, so one just popped up and said, hey.
All right. Okay. All right, so I guess that's all I have. I'd like to, I guess, thank everyone for coming. It's pretty good. Oh, sorry. I have a few people I need to add in. Janet Coda. And let's see. Does anyone else not see their name on this attendee list right here that's currently in the meeting?
I misspoke on Darlene's name. I don't think there's a T in the Johnson.
Okay. All right. I think I see Mary Reiser too. All right. That looks better. Okay, all right. So thanks everyone for coming. I'll probably cancel the meeting now and put up the recording as well as the agenda and action items up with a link in a listserv post. It looks like so far the next meeting will be on Wednesday the 6th, same time at 10 a.m. So I guess just plan on that if you have a calendar tool to put that in. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming and for staying, even though it went a little over. Oh, and I guess, sorry, Heidi, are you there? Heidi? Maybe an action item to check back in with Heidi too. Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Did you say something, Buzzy?
I just said thank you.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and see you online.
All right, bye-bye. Thanks.